Nonviolence section. Ahimsa and social coercion. Assimilating the best of the Western heritage also meant for Lenin's party, which obviously on this point especially took Marx's teachings to heart, posing the problem of the development of the productive forces, and conceiving of a society in a position to produce social wealth in abundance, rather than distributing it equally. By contrast, the advice addressed to his son in a letter of 25th of March 1909 gives us some idea of the societal model cherished by Gandhi. Quote, "The more I think of it, the more I feel that it is more blessed to be poor than to be rich. It appears that leaving one's bed before sunrise is almost indispensable for proper worship. To give ample work to gardening, actual digging, hoeing, etc." End quote. In this framework, the idea of a society like that desired by the communists, where the development of the productive forces enables the satisfaction of needs and an increase in the free time available to individuals, also proves unacceptable for religious reasons. Quote, "Leisure is good and necessary up to a point only. God created man to eat his bread by the sweat of his brow, and I dread the prospect of our being able to produce all that we want, including our foodstuffs, out of a conjurer's hat." End quote. In the name of frugality, Gandhi persuaded a disciple to abandon binoculars and cast them into the sea. Apart from luxuries, there was not even room for forms of insurance, which were synonymous with attachment to property and luxury, and hence morally disruptive or unacceptable. Quote, "Life insurance," urged the autobiography, implied fear and want of faith in God, and losing sight of the fact that the real protector is the Almighty. End quote. However, the desired return to a mythical tradition, stamped by ahimsa and plain clothing, inspired an idea of a society where there was ample room for social coercion. Gandhi began his journalistic activity by accusing Britain of having introduced alcohol into India, quote, "that enemy of mankind, that curse of civilization," end quote. Later, during the First World War, he extended his indictment. Unfortunately, the imperial government had also introduced the fashion of tea drinking, imported from China, which not only ruined the digestive apparatus of hundreds of thousands of men and women, but above all threatened to overwhelm the nation. End quote. In addition to alcohol and tea, Indians must renounce foreign clothing. They must in fact learn to spin and weave their own clothes, and the products of this activity, khadi, actually sacred khadi, could become the state dress. The moment of social coercion emerges once again, all the more so in that patriotism must be, quote, "made a religion." Indeed, the boundaries between religion and politics were unstable. The following shrill assertion by Gandhi dates from February 1916. Quote, "I do not believe that religion has nothing to do with politics. The latter, divorced from religion, is like a corpse only fit to be buried." End quote. At this point, violation of the norms dictated by patriotism was simultaneously transgression of the norms dictated by religion, rendering social coercion even more severe. The heartfelt denunciation of the sex complex that was steadily gaining ground in India is clearly to be situated in this context. The complex targeted here is the presumption of rendering sexual pleasure independent of procreation. Unfortunately, not even women succeeded in resisting this bad habit. Quote, "When both want to satisfy the animal passion, without having to suffer the consequences of their act, it is not love, it is lust." End quote. We can now understand the definitive condemnation of birth control, all the more so in that giving free rein to sex had a devastating impact on physical and mental health. The penalties for violations of the austere sexual ethic obtaining in Gandhi's model community were severe. Quote, "At Phoenix, a young female pupil twice committed a moral lapse." End quote. Gandhi was shaken, and not only engaged in a long fast, but briefly even entertained the idea of, quote, "ending his life as a penitential sacrifice." The sinner, quote, "also fasted, took off all her jewelry, put on the garb of mourning, and had her hair cropped short as a sign of guilt and remorse." End quote. While in Lenin's party, women to a greater or lesser extent achieved sexual emancipation, in Gandhi's, the archaic cult of tradition and plain clothing also made itself negatively felt at the level of sexual relations. In conclusion, contrary to current myths, Lenin's party was much more, quote, Western than Gandhi's. It should be added that the latter also contained leaders of a different orientation. For example, Jawaharlal Nehru, who strongly felt the influence of both the West and the party of Lenin. End of section.